hardest problem, acrylic painting medium.
No, the title's wrong. Like it's just I don't want to call it that. Okay, change the name. It's gonna be Retarded Acrylics. What's that phase? I'm sorry. Okay. Acrylics that are retarded.
You're serious?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's. I mean, I don't know. It's
Oh, okay.
retarded. There's so many acrylic mediums, so to call it acrylic painting mediums is a misnomer. We're talking about retarded acrylics, or should we say acrylics that are retarded? Okay, artist problems, acrylic retarder. So this is important, I think. We're gonna find out. Acrylic paints are awesome. They're awesome for a lot of reasons. They're really easy to clean up. They're really easy to use. There's no solvents involved. There's nothing that you have to worry about in terms of toxic carcinogens in any kind of paint thinner or anything. You can just use plain water. One of the biggest drawbacks, though, with acrylics, for some people, is just how quickly they dry. They don't have a long open time, is what it's called. So a lot of people that want to work with acrylics and keep them open want to retard them. Let's define retard. Well, I have it written down here. Okay, retard is delay or hold back in terms of progress, development, or accomplishments. For acrylics, we are trying to slow that drying time so that they stay open longer, okay? We want to have retarded acrylics. With that being said, there are different types of ways that you can retard your acrylic paint, okay, to slow down that drying time. The most common method is a drying retarder, okay? And you can see the viscosity here. I would say it's closer to like maybe like, what do you say, like a heavy cream, or like I don't know, maybe not heavy cream, maybe like skim milk. It's a little bit thicker than water, but it's still very fluid. The reason that this becomes a problem outside of the fact that your acrylics dry too quickly, maybe that's what we should have called the video, fast drying acrylics, yeah. So with the drying retarder, an issue that you run into is not using it properly, because if you add too much retarder into your paint, it will never dry to that waterproof film finish that you have probably come to know and love in your acrylic paints. When you use a drying retarder, you can add it directly to your paint, okay? Another method that you can do is actually just add a few drops into your water. Now that does two different things, okay? If your paints are retarded, that means that they will, on the canvas, slow down. When you add retarder to the water, that means that the paints on your palette will be retarded, because just a little bit of that water will hit them, and they should stay open a little bit longer for blends, okay, to keep them open. That's I think what I'm trying to say. It just depends on people's preference. The biggest issue is you only are supposed to use around 5%, okay? And when you're looking at paint samples, and I've kind of scaled it down, it's very, very important that you're cautious, because 5% of that is, I guess, just a few drops. If you just look, Will, are you in there? So we're just gonna add just a couple drops, okay? Just a couple drops. And this should leave the paint, prevent it from creating a skin for longer, okay? It will eventually dry, but it will give it open time. Now, what are some of the things that you would want to make sure you had a larger open time for? Well, if you're painting plein air, a lot of times plein air artists can't use acrylics. They'll dry in that open air and that breeze. They'll just dry right on the palette on you. If you do portraiture, that requires a lot of blending, and not having enough open time means that you're not going to be able to have those subtle nuances and glazes that you might want to have for portraiture. And there are tons of other applications. Maybe you're just a slow painter and want to have more time. Being able to slow down your paint is important. Another way that you can retard your paints is with a gel retarder, okay? It's sometimes called gel retarder, sometimes it's called open medium. It keeps your paints open, wet longer. Now, why would you want a gel retarder versus a drying retarder that is like this? Well, anytime you add something to your paint, you're going to change the intensity of it, because I just added a little bit more to this. So even though it's minimal, you slightly changed it, but you've also changed the paint's viscosity. That's a big word for me. You changed the paint's viscosity. You've made it a little thinner with the drying retarder, okay? With the gel retarder, though, you're still going to cut the paint a little bit, but it's going to maintain the same viscosity of your acrylic, so it will remain kind of that more impasto, thick, buttery consistency and not thin them down. So you can see here, and again, same thing, around 5%. That might be a little bit much. Again, we're using those artist science standards. I like saying that. To keep it going. But when I mix these together, it will stay all the same viscosity. Okay? Now, just to give you guys an idea, before we filmed, for some people that are a little bit newer, you know, they might not be fully grasping what I mean by like, well, staying open longer. I put out two different acrylics. Okay, this paint is regular, this one's retarded. The regular one, they've been out for the same amount of time, okay? The regular one, I don't know if that's coming up. You see how there's like a slight skin on it? Okay, these have been out probably, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes-ish. And that is not ideal for painting because that skin can gunk up on your palette, it can gunk up on your painting, it can gunk up your life, and we don't want a gunky life. We want smooth and creamy, just like the pigments, right? Yeah, you know. Now over here, with the retarded paint, I can show you, it's been open, it's been out at the same time, it's completely still wet. Now it will eventually dry, you know, but you have a longer open time. Now there is another thing, another way that you can go about using your acrylics longer. There are some brands of paint, such as Golden's Open, okay? This whole line of paint is retarded. Every single one of them is retarded. This is designed so that you don't have to think about it, you can just take it out and go. If you know that if like you're a strict plein air painter and you want your paints to dry slowly, this is a good investment to invest in these paints. However, for me, I don't want all my paints retarded. Actually, I want to be able to control the drying time myself. And this is one of those things, Olivia, where it's like, I talk about being really lazy, right? So you'd think that somebody like me is like, well, adding a few drops of retarder each time might be a problem, that's just like extra work, and this is really basic. But I'm also really impatient. So if I know that all my paints are retarded, I'm gonna have to wait for them to dry. And I do not like waiting for retarded paints to dry. This was just something that came up to me because I was trying these, and I'm used to acrylics, because most acrylics dry, for the most part, around the same time very quickly. But when I got this, I realized, you know something? Sometimes I want them to dry fast. I don't want to wait around. It's that balance of, okay, well, do I want to be lazy or do I want to be impatient? You know, I'm going to be one of the two. And I think impatient wins. And if I want to be able to control how fast my layers dry, I have to add that retarder myself. And I also don't have to have a separate investment in paints, okay? So I don't have to have a set of paints that are regular and a set of paints that are retarded. So really this artist problem is twofold, okay? The artist problem that my acrylics are drying too fast, okay, for some people, and that the other people that are saying, well, no, I know how to fix my paints from drying too fast, I'll add retarder to it to slow the drying time, but they're not using it properly. They might be using too much. And the other mistake that you can run into is when your paints are not drying evenly, you don't have proper adhesion. So if you've used a drying retarder, okay, in some paints, and you've painted a layer, and then gone on with regular acrylics on top of that, you're kind of sealing the moisture in because you haven't let the bottom layer dry enough, potentially, okay? So when you use drying retarder, it's important that you take the time to make sure that the bottom layer is completely dry before doing the next one. Otherwise, you will trap in the moisture, okay? And we want things to stay wet. That's the whole point of this, okay? Getting wet and keeping it wet until you're done, right? The other thing that might happen is that if you don't wait for that bottom layer to dry, an even worse scenario is it will somehow be able to start drying and it will crack your paint film, okay? Maybe you don't mind that your paint will dry water soluble, okay? In which case you can use a drying retarder for something like watercolor effects. You can actually, you know, take these paints and spread them out. They will never dry water fast, waterproof, okay? You've changed the paint molecular structure, but you can use it. For example, on this Matisse drying retarder, it says, additions of drying retarder may be used in watercolor, water wash effect, stain painting, and hard edge techniques where it assists in the pigment wetting, rapid color diffusion, and penetration. The bottom line is you want to keep it around that 5%, 8% max is what it says on this, but you can use more if you don't care that it will remain water soluble. all right? So the choice is yours. You can buy the paints that have all the drying retarder in them already, built in, same amount, even keel, nice and easy, right? You can buy your regular acrylics and then retard them yourselves with drying retarder or gel retarder. And remember that this has to do with the viscosity, okay? I'll make them dance for you. That's how people remember when I make things dance. Viscosity, and this is also something that you can add to the water. And you know, a lot of this is also experimentation. You know, if you are just trying to blend colors and keep them open on your palette, just dipping in the water might be enough. You know, having, you know, a few drops or however much in your water, and you might not have to retard your acrylics at all. So keep your paints wet, keep your art wet, and keep me wet on Instagram at Mike Not Jerry, where I continue to push the border of appropriate and offensive for Olivia, and probably anybody that speaks English. What I want to know is, are you an acrylic painter? If not, hi. I don't know why you're watching this, but maybe it's just because it's me, and in which case I understand. But you know, if you are an acrylic painter, have you run into issues with drying time? Has something dried on you way too quickly or taken too much time because maybe you didn't use the proper amount? What have been your acrylic painting problems? Okay, and we're going to talk about other, you know, acrylic mediums in the future, but when it comes to drying time, that's one of the things that kind of holds acrylics back, unless you want it to be fast. I mean, sometimes, like I said, I'm impatient. I want things to dry when I want them to dry. I have more control when you can decide when something's retarded or not. That's okay, right? No? I want to talk to people about how they're always in my pants if they follow me on Instagram, but is that also bordering on inappropriate? Okay. Okay. Well, you're always in my pants if you follow me on Instagram, because I have you right here. I hold you real close to my heart.